Dear friends, today is Yom Hazikaron, the day in which we remember all of those who have been taken from us in establishing the state of Israel, defending the state of Israel, victims of terror. And especially this year, in the aftermath of October 7th, we remember all of those who were so brutally killed by our vicious enemies on October 7th, and the 7 months plus since that horrific and overwhelming day. It's a day in which we reflect on the losses and sacrifices of Klal Yisrael. And I think that for those of us in the diaspora, we not only feel geographically distant, but we often feel emotionally distant from the experience as well. We watch almost longingly in the videos online about the different commemorations, the gatherings, the pilgrimage to Har Herzl to give kavod, to ultimately give honor and respect to those who have fallen. And we feel almost like a little bit out of place. On one hand, we feel the pain, but we don't necessarily have the same outlets in which to experience it and express it. We feel the connection, yet again, we feel so geographically and sometimes even emotionally distant. So what is our avodah? What is it that we are supposed to do? And what is it that we're supposed to feel on this day? So I want to share with you two concepts. The first is actually based on an incredible Rashi in last week's parsha. The pasuk says, this is actually in the 5th aliyah Parshas Kedoshim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe as follows. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving a prohibition against Molech, which was a type of idolatry, child sacrifice. And the Torah says, Va'ani etein es panai ba'ishahu v'echrati oso mikarav amo. A person who participates in Molech, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to punish this person. I'm going to cut off this person. Ki mizaro nasan lamolech, because a person has given his offspring, has given his children to avodah zarah, to idolatry. Leman tameas mikdashi ulechalel shem kodshi. For by participating in Molech, by participating in avodah zarah, this individual has literally tameas mikdashi, has defiled my mikdash, defiled my temple, ulechalel shem kodshi, and has profaned my name. And Rashi says something amazing. Rashi says tameas mikdashi. What does it mean he's profaned my temple? What does it mean if a person decides to worship avodah zarah, a person decides to worship idolatry, a person decides chas v'shalom to engage in molech, which is child sacrifice? What does it mean that they've profaned the Beis HaMikdash? And Rashi says, no. Tameas mikdashi es knesses Yisrael. Mikdashi over here doesn't mean the Beis HaMikdash. Mikdashi means the Jewish people. The Jewish people, shehi mikudeshes li, because Klal Yisrael is sanctified to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rashi HaKadosh is saying, Tameas Mikdash, you've defiled my temple. Who is my temple? My temple is the Jewish people. Klal Yisrael is the Beis HaMikdash of the Ribono Shel Olam. You know, everything that we have in this world has a parallel in the celestial sphere. So in this world we have a Beis HaMikdash. That means in the celestial sphere there's a Beis HaMikdash. And Rashi is saying we have a Beis HaMikdash that's made. Emir Hashem b'shah tovum mitzlachos. We'll have the third Beis HaMikdash from here, Rabbi Yameinu. It's going to be made out of all types of different materials. Kadosh Baruch Hu also has a Beis HaMikdash. The Ribono Shel Olam's Beis HaMikdash is called Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people. And when you look at it through that lens, you begin to realize that the loss of a Jew is the loss of a Beis HaMikdash. The loss of a Jew is the loss of a Beis HaMikdash. What we mourn on Yom HaZikaron is not simply the death of individuals. Is not only, again, the fact that fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters and spouses and siblings and friends have left irreparable voids in the lives of so many. We mourn the loss because each and every one of those precious neshamas for who we mourn for today on Yom HaZikaron was a Beis HaMikdash unto themselves. We often think that Tisha B'Av is a day when we mourn the loss of the Chorban. Or I should say, mourn the Chorban and mourn the loss of the Beis HaMikdash. But perhaps Yom HaZikaron is also a day where we mourn a Chorban. But a different kind of Chorban. We don't mourn a structure that stood atop of Har HaBayis. That's on Tisha B'Av. On Yom HaZikaron, we mourn the loss of multiple individual temples. Each and every one of those precious soldiers, and each and every one of the security personnel, and each and every one of the innocent victims of terror who have given their lives, Akidushas Hashem, Ha'am, V'ha'aretz, was a Beis HaMikdash. Today is a day where we experience the Churban. We experience the loss. And we realize that over the years, Klal Yisrael has lost thousands upon thousands of beautiful, bright, luminescent, and holy Batei Mikdash. That's what we mourn today. That's the Klal Yisrael loss for today. But there's another lesson. We call this day Yom Hazikaron, day to remember. So what that means is we're supposed to remember something. So it could be something as simple as remembering that there was a loss, but the truth is, as a people, no one really ever has to remind us to remember loss. Loss is something that is part of our DNA. Loss is part of something that we experience and we live every single day in different ways. Perhaps the avodah of Yom HaZikaron is to remember that there are thousands of Jews who gave their lives for me and you. When you read some of these stirring letters that these soldiers left behind, those letters that are only read in the event that a soldier doesn't come home, and you hear the pride, almost what we would call a ga'ava Yehudit, a Jewish pride, of being able to fight for Am Yisrael, being able to fight for Eretz Yisrael, and you recognize the privilege they feel in the Mesiras Nefesh, in the self-sacrifice. It's overwhelming. And it's humbling that we are part of a nation who has young, idealistic, brave, and old, idealistic and brave, willing to give their lives for me and you, willing to give their lives for the eternality of the Jewish nation, willing to give their lives for the eternality of Eretz Yisrael, willing to allow the soil, the holy soil of Eretz Yisrael, to give forth life because it is saturated with the blood of their Mesiras Nefesh, with the tears of their families who are left bereft. Yom HaZikaron is a day that we remember that we are here today because we stand on the shoulders of those who are willing to be Moser Nefesh, who are willing to sacrifice, and who have paid the ultimate and overwhelming sacrifice for the continuity, eternality, and success of Klal Yisrael. That's what we remember. And dear friends, it's important for us then to take a step back and to ask ourselves, what is our Mesiras Nefesh? What is our self-sacrifice for Klal Yisrael? Today is a day to remember heroes. Today is a day to remember those who were willing to go ahead and literally be a haftas Hashem Elokecha, b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol ma'odecha. Precious neshamas who are willing to give everything for me and you. Just because we're 6,000 miles away, just because we're far away, doesn't mean that those precious soldiers and those individuals who gave their lives weren't thinking about us. Because we're all connected, we're all one nation, we're all one heart. Their sacrifice was as much for us as it was for our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. They sacrificed for us, and now today I must remember them. Because I have to ask myself, what am I willing to sacrifice for my people? What's my Mesiras Nefesh? How am I ready to give? How am I ready to push? How am I ready to go ahead and figure out what is my contribution to Klal Yisrael? We, diaspora Jewry, may not be asked to make the same type of sacrifice, but our sacrifice is no less important and no less needed, especially in these times. This entire Yom HaZikaron and the Meretz Hashem Yom HaAtzmaut B'Shah Tova Matzlachas is so different this year. In the shadow of the pain of our hostages, recognizing that our precious soldiers are still fighting on multiple fronts for our safety, for our security. On this day of Yom HaZikaron, let us remember those who have fallen. Let us remember those who have been Moser Nefesh. And let us give significant, meaningful, and serious thought to our Mesiras Nefesh. What's our contribution? What is our sacrifice? What can we do to advance the national agenda of our people? What can we do to make Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael stronger? What can we do to help guarantee a brighter future, an even brighter future for our magnificent, holy, and luminescent people. And if we could do that, if we could remember their sacrifice so as to encourage us to make our own, then on this day we will be zocha to give their neshamas in aliyah. We'll be zocha Meretz Hashem to propel their neshamas mala higher and higher. And halavai, in the merit of their memory, may Klal Yisrael inch its way closer to Geula each and every day. May be zocha Meretz Hashem to simchas, to besaros tovos, and to Geula b'mehira b'yameinu. Amen.